Hey everybody, welcome to my house. Just goes to show that history can happen anywhere and anytime. I've promised my children popsicles if they let me get through this lecture without interrupting me, so we're just going to see if popsicles are in their future. This little ditty here is related to this handout. We've done, hopefully, these first two columns in class. It's the Industrial Revolution in America, and we've talked about technological developments and how that shaped society, and how both of those things contributed to greater sectionalism in the country, meaning regional differences that led people to put their regional interests above the national interest, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on this third column here, which is about what political developments happened during the time period to help address this problem, okay? So let's head to the PowerPoint and we will see what those were. Okay. So, when we looked at the technological and societal developments, we see that the North has become increasingly industrial, and the South has become increasingly agricultural, and slave labor is the predominant workforce, whereas in the North we have what we call wage labor. And so, are the North and South growing more alike or more different? And the answer is different. Sectionalism. Okay? And so there's a political figure very important in U.S. history in this time period who is going to try and address this growing sectionalism. I really can't believe it's my husband's interrupting mode. No popsicle for you. All right. So there's this one guy who's decided he's going to address the sectionalism in the country, and that is the ever-present but never president, Henry Clay. Okay? Henry Clay is going to come up with a political agenda that is supposedly going to try and solve this. And if you recall, this isn't the first time I've referred to the North and the South as kind of a marriage. Remember, they're kind of opposites attract because the North and the South have always been different. And Henry Clay is going to step in and try and mend this marriage because this marriage is not going very well. The opposites have become even more opposite in their union. So, he comes up with this plan called the American system. I wish Henry Clay had come up with a different name other than the American system, because the American system is so broad and so vague that a lot of times my students confuse it with like just plain old checks and balances or democracy. But this is a specific plan to try and address our sectionalism, the growing sectionalism in the country, and it's called the American system. Okay? Now, the goal, and some would say it's actually not Henry Clay's invention, but he was just simply the best at marketing it. But at any rate, the goal is to make the regions, one goal of the American system is to make the regions depend on each other. So then they need each other, okay? This is kind of how a marriage works, right? You divide labor within a marriage, and that's part of what makes marriage so attractive, right? Someone pays the bills, someone mows the lawn, somebody does the laundry, someone does the dishes. And this division of labor creates interdependence that makes it very unlikely anyone's going to get divorced, right? Because you need each other, okay? And so that's what Henry Clay is trying to establish. He's trying to say, hey, let's make the regions of the country need each other so much that they couldn't think of breaking up, okay? And so the question is, what exactly is each region of the country going to be doing that is so important and necessary for the other regions of the country? Well, as you can imagine, the North is going to be engaged in manufacturing goods. They're going to make stuff to sell to the South and to the Northwest because they have the manufacturing base, the textiles, the rivers that help support the textile mills, and the labor force in urban areas or nearby urban areas to work in those factories. The South is going to make cotton. Now, since the cotton gin has been invented, we know that the cotton kingdom has come to the South, but here's the catch. The South has got to sell their cotton to the North, not to Britain, okay? We all know this marriage has another problem, right? This North-to-South marriage. That's that the South is cheating on the North, okay? The South is supposed to be loyal to the North and only trade with the North, but we all know who the South is trading with. Who is it? Britain. Those pesky Brits. So, Henry Clay has got to figure out a way to not only have the South grow their cotton, to make sure that they only give their cotton to the North. Don't be giving your cotton to Britain, okay? And then the next part is the Northwest. This is a whole new territory in the United States. Well, it's not new, but it's been growing. And it's going to become the dairy, beef, grains region. And it's going to sell, it's going to kind of be the bread and beer basket of the country, it's going to sell its stuff to the north and south. And this is totally easy to remember. See, I love it when culture reflects history. Okay, here's an example. Up north, Wisconsin area, that's like the northwest area, what's their football team called? The Green Bay Packers. Packing. What are they packing? Meat and cheese. That's why they wear their cheese heads, you know? So the Northwest has always been specializing in cattle, both dairy and meat and beef cattle. And then when you go to the Packers game, and what do you put on the grill, and what do you drink? You put brats on the grill, right? Because that's like meat packing, sausage brats, and not exactly school appropriate, but true. You drink beer, and beer is made from hops and grains and those kinds of things. So if you just consider what the Northwest region to this day still kind of identifies with culturally, you can figure out what it was that they were specializing in back then too. And it's beef and grains and dairy. Okay? So everyone's going to do their part, north, south, and northwest, and they're all going to come to rely on each other, and that will make it much less likely that they break into their sectionalist camps. Okay? But wait! There's more! Plus, this is another really important part of the American system. So regional interdependence was just one part. They need to revive the national bank. Okay? Remember that the bank has been born by Alexander Hamilton, killed by Jefferson. Well, now the idea is that it needs to come back, because when they devolve the printing of money to state banks, we always get too much money being printed. And so what we need to bring back a stable currency. So it's very clear how much money is worth. Because if you recall, if you don't centralize and stabilize the nation's currency, instead everybody will cheat. All the state banks will cheat, and they'll print too much. And so that makes people very unlikely to want to use currency, because it's not clear exactly how much it's worth. Okay? So if we bring back the national bank, our currency will be stable, and people will want to use it to trade, and that is key. The second thing we need to do is we need to tax foreign goods. That's called a protective tariff. If we tax foreign goods, that'll make British goods more expensive, and it will force the Southerners to quit cheating on the North and buying British goods. Okay? So it will force them to buy American. So Henry Clay knows this infidelity that the South is engaging in with the British must stop, and that is going to be one way to force it to stop, is to make it too expensive to buy the British goods to start with. And then the third part is the government is going to take over building roads and canals. Okay? Before this time period, most roads and canals were privately built. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. We're so used to the government building our roads today that it would never occur to us that private citizens would build roads. But that's exactly how it worked back then. For example, in my backyard right here, there's a house behind us, a whole cul-de-sac behind us, that the kids want to go to the pool. Well, the pool is that way, and if they want to go to the pool legally and walk all the way around, they had to go all the way around here. It'd take them about a mile. But if they cut through my yard, they can get to the pool lickety-split. So what did they do? They cut through my yard. And back then, when people saw that other people were getting on their land like that as a means of trade or to get somewhere faster, they would build a road and sit on it all day and charge tolls to use the road, the private road that they had built. And people made good money this way. The problem is when you are trading across long distances over land, and every time you use someone's road you have to pay a toll, by the time you get your goods where they're going, you've paid so much money in tolls that the price of the goods is just going to have to reflect that cost. And so the price of goods generally is going to go up. So what Henry Clay figured out is, you know what, we need to quit having private citizens build roads and sit on them and charge tolls. We need the government to build roads. And then there'll be more roads, and those roads can be inexpensive for the people trading on them, and so that won't increase the price of goods. Okay? So, roads and canals, government built, big part of making a vibrant economy. Okay? So, that'll lead to better internal trade and better communication, and make it easier for all the different regions to trade with each other instead of using the sea to trade with Britain. Okay? So just an example to show you how canals actually worked. Okay, here's a picture of early canal building. You can see that here's like a big ditch, and that's kind of how it worked. So think about this. All you do to make a canal, we don't have canals around anymore because the railroad pretty much replaces them. So some of you might have seen canals, but most of you probably have not. So here's how a canal works. You take two bodies of water and you connect them with a ditch, okay? And then you pour water in the ditch. and then you put like floatable devices, like not barges, but just things that float, like rafts. Yeah, rafts. Okay, you put like rafts on top of the water, and that therefore you can put a load on the raft, but the water is displaced by the heaviness of the raft. So it's a lot easier to put animals on either side of the ditch, and they just pull the weight along the top of the water. Okay, so if here's, oh, here we go. If here's a ditch that I dug, okay, you would have a horse here, and you would have a horse here, and they would be tied to the load on the canal, and they'd just be dragging the load along the top of the water. So the animals can go a lot longer because they're not actually have the load on their backs. Instead, the water is carrying the weight of the load, okay? And you can actually even get these canals to go up and down elevations. So let me show you that real fast, how this works. Okay, so you see here clearly that these men have dug this ditch, and on either side of it is kind of an area where things can be pulled along. And then here is an example of how you can get canals to actually go up and down levels. Okay, this is with a lock system. So here's the boat on top of the water, and it needs to get up a hill. It needs to get up here. Okay, so what you do is you put up a little gate, and you pump water into this compartment until it's equal with this compartment. And then when they are equal in terms of their water, you drop this gate and the boat goes forward, and then you pull the gate back up. And then you displace water from this compartment to this compartment, and then the water balances and the boat goes up. And when these two sections are equal in height, you drop the gate and the boat goes forward. So the beautiful thing about canals is you don't even have to make the ditch level. As long as the ditch has these gates, you can actually get boats to go up and down elevations using what's called this lock system. Okay? So these government-owned roads and these government-owned canals are going to be quite important in terms of connecting major regions of the country. So this is a map that shows you some of the most popular canals in the time period. And what you'll notice is they always connect a big body of water with another body of water. So this Wabash and Erie Canal is going all the way to a tributary to the Mississippi River, as are these. So suddenly this region of the country, what we call the Northwest, it is now connected to the Atlantic Ocean this way in world trade, and it's also connected to the Mississippi River and down to the south to Louisiana and involved in world trade. So suddenly trade up here becomes much easier and much more likely thanks to these canals. You can also see all these canals here. And canal culture really arises as men move massive amounts of material and goods all over the country and into world markets. Okay? Ask me in class to sing you the Erie Canal song. No extra charge for that. I will sing you the Erie Canal song with no extra charge. Okay. We also have national roads that are being built. If you've ever heard of Daniel Boone, for example, he helped build a national road during this time period. In 1840, for example, we had this national pike built that went all the way from the East Coast all the way through the Northwest, through Illinois. Okay, so that's another example of a major vein of communication and economic activity that went on here. And that's the end of the American system, okay? So basically, Henry Clay is key to trying to downplay these sectionalist tensions that are dividing the North, South, and the Northwest, make them interdependent by trading with each other, and he's going to increase the likelihood that that happens by raising a tariff so that the South quits trading with Britain, and by building communication and transportation networks that will unite the North, South, and Northwest, like roads and canals. And then also he's going to bring back the national bank that will regulate the currency and make sure that too much money isn't being printed for the amount of gold we have, and so people will feel like they can use the currency because it's clear how much it's worth. Okay? So, that's pretty much all I had to say. I hope that you guys have a great evening or morning, and I'll see you in class. Goodbye.